You can move your stuff to the garage, Emily. Jason needs space to settle in. That sentence hit me like a slap across the face. I had just gotten home from my first year of college, suitcase still in hand, and my dad, standing in the hallway with his new wife, Claire, dropped that bomb like it was no big deal. My room, the one with the lilac curtains my mom helped me pick out, the walls lined with my childhood photos, had been completely emptied. A new PlayStation, football posters, and someone else's name on the door. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood there, frozen. Then I pulled out my phone, and I hit play. They had no idea I had already heard everything they said the week before. I had recorded it all. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 19 years old, and until recently, I thought home was a place that couldn't betray you. I grew up in that house. Every corner of it held a memory. Sunday pancakes with my mom in the kitchen, late-night talks with my dad on the porch, dancing in my room to old pop songs when no one was watching. After Mom passed away 3 years ago, my room became my only safe space. I decorated it just how I liked, lavender-scented candles, photos of my mom, a string of fairy lights along the wall. It wasn't just a room. It was my sanctuary. When I left for college, I was nervous but proud. I'd worked hard for a partial scholarship and saved every dime from my part-time job at the bookstore. My dad hugged me tight when he dropped me off. Or at least I thought it meant something. Things started changing after Claire entered the picture. She was charming at first, always polite, always smiling. But I noticed how she avoided talking about my mom or shifting conversations toward her son, Jason. Still, I tried to stay positive. I wanted to believe my dad wouldn't let anyone push me aside. But I was wrong. 2 weeks before I came home for break, I had a weird feeling. Claire had accidentally, but dialed me during a conversation with my dad. What I heard in those few minutes made my heart drop. Claire saying, "She's practically an adult now. Let Jason have a real home. She'll understand, or she'll get over it." My dad didn't protest. So I saved that recording. And then, for good measure, I set up my old iPod, still hidden in the bookshelf in my room, to record the next time they talked in there. What I caught over the next few days confirmed everything. I wasn't coming home to family. I was coming home to strangers who saw me as an inconvenience. I didn't say a word as they waited for me to react. Claire with her forced smile, Jason pretending not to notice me standing there in shock, and Dad avoiding my eyes. Instead, I calmly pulled my phone from my back pocket, opened the voice memo app, and tapped on the file I'd labeled Dad and Claire, May 28th. Claire's voice echoed through the hallway. She's just a kid. She doesn't need a whole room to herself when Jason is going to live here full-time. My dad's voice followed, quiet but clear. Yeah, maybe she'll throw a fit, but we'll deal with it when she shows up. The color drained from his face. Claire froze. Jason glanced between us, finally realizing something serious was happening. I looked straight at my father. You were planning this all along. You didn't even think I deserved a conversation. Then I pulled a small USB stick from my jacket pocket. This has everything else. From the iPod I left recording in the bookshelf. Thought you should know, I heard everything. My voice didn't shake. Not even once. Let them sit with that silence. For once, they didn't have control. You recorded us? Claire hissed, her eyes narrowing as she stepped forward. That's illegal. You can't just. I can. I cut in calmly. In this state, it's legal if at least one party is aware. And that party was me. Dad opened his mouth, but no words came out. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. Not fear for me, but fear for himself. Fear of what he looked like in those recordings. Fear of what I might do with them. Jason looked like he wanted to vanish into the floor. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Claire turned to Dad, her voice sharp. You said you took care of it. You said she'd be fine with it. I stepped forward. You mean when you two decided I didn't matter anymore? When you assumed I'd just take whatever scraps you gave me? Dad finally found his voice. Emily, it wasn't like that. We were trying to create a new family, one that included everyone. By erasing me? I asked, my tone flat. By giving my room, my mother's memory, To someone you've known for a year? Claire scoffed. You're overreacting. It's just a room. My eyes burned, but I didn't let the tears fall.
No.
It was my space. My identity. The only thing I had left from before everything fell apart. And you walked in and stripped it like it was nothing. Dad tried to move closer, hands raised like I was some wild animal about to bolt. We'll figure something out, okay? You can stay in the guest room for now. I took a deep breath. I'm not staying anywhere. I'll collect the rest of my things, and then I'm gone. Emily, he said, reaching for me. But someone else stepped in. My Aunt Rachel, Dad's younger sister, who had been standing quietly near the front door, watching it all unfold. Emily's right, Rachel said, her voice steady and sharp. You crossed a line, Eric. I told you Claire was pushing her out, and you said I was imagining things. Well, are you still imagining now? Claire looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Rachel walked over to me and placed a hand on my shoulder. You've always been stronger than they gave you credit for. And you're not alone. That moment shifted everything. Claire began unraveling, her tone turning shrill, accusing me of dividing the family, manipulating the situation. But it was too late. The cracks were exposed, and she couldn't patch them over with fake smiles anymore. My dad tried to guilt me again, using the same tired line. I did what I thought was best for everyone. I turned to him one last time.
No.
You did what was easiest for you. You didn't want to make waves with your new wife, so you let her bulldoze my existence. You didn't protect me. But I will never stop protecting myself again. He stood there, stunned, like he didn't know who I was anymore. That made two of us. I packed what was left of my things that night. Not in anger, just quiet purpose. My fairy lights, still tangled around the old window frame. My mother's locket, tucked in the top drawer. The candle she bought me before her last hospital visit. I didn't rush. I let myself feel every object, every corner of that room they'd tried to erase. Aunt Rachel helped me carry the boxes out to her car. She didn't say much, but her presence was solid, grounding. She knew. She'd been watching all along, waiting for me to stand up for myself. Once we were done, I turned back toward the house and found my dad standing in the doorway. Alone. I never wanted to hurt you, he said, voice low, defeated. I sighed. But you did. He nodded, shame heavy on his face. I let her change things too fast. I thought I was doing the right thing, moving on. I never asked you not to move on, I said quietly. I just wanted to matter. He swallowed hard. I messed up. You did. The silence between us said more than words could. I wasn't there to fix him. That wasn't my job anymore. I offered him a single boundary. If you want to be part of my life, you'll have to earn it back.
Slowly.
With actions, not apologies. He nodded again. And this time, he didn't try to stop me from leaving. The first night at Rachel's place was quiet, peaceful. She gave me her spare room and told me to take all the time I needed. Over the next few weeks, she became more than an aunt. She became a friend. We cooked dinner together, planted flowers in her tiny backyard, and drank tea late at night under string lights. She gave me space to heal, to rebuild. And little by little I did. Rachel was the first to encourage me to look for a small rental near campus. You need your own roots now, she said. Not another borrowed room. So I found a part-time job tutoring high school students and used my savings to rent a tiny studio apartment. It was barely 400 square feet, but it was mine. I painted the walls soft lilac, hung the same fairy lights from my old room, put my mom's picture on the windowsill. When I lit that same candle again, I didn't cry this time. I smiled. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was starting over. One afternoon, a familiar voice called my name on campus. I turned to see Jason, my dad's stepson, walking up to me. I didn't know you were back, he said awkwardly. I am, I replied, not offering more. He scratched the back of his neck. I didn't know what was happening, Emily.
I swear.
I thought you agreed to give up the room. I raised an eyebrow. I didn't. But I'm not mad at you. You were just part of the mess. He looked relieved but still uncomfortable. Claire's been spiraling since you left. Dad's quieter. Different. I nodded.
Good.
Maybe he's finally thinking. Jason hesitated. You really recorded them? I smiled just a little. I really did. He chuckled nervously. Honestly, that's kind of badass. I didn't respond. Just turned and walked away. Some people don't deserve full explanations. Just distance. A month later, Aunt Rachel threw a dinner at her place. Nothing fancy, just grilled chicken, roasted veggies, and homemade lemonade. She invited a few of her friends, and I met a woman named Lila, who ran a nonprofit helping girls from broken homes. You've got a fire in you, Lila said after hearing a bit of my story. Ever thought about mentoring? A lot of young girls could use someone like you. Something stirred in me. That night, I stayed up researching her program. I sent an email before I went to bed. 2 weeks later, I was accepted as a peer mentor. It felt like everything I'd gone through wasn't just pain, it was preparation. 6 months later, my life looked nothing like it did the day I walked into my childhood home and found a stranger unpacking in my room. Now I had my own apartment, my own rhythm, my own peace. The studio space wasn't fancy, but it was filled with warmth, soft rugs, plants I was learning not to kill, secondhand furniture that felt like me. The bookshelf near the window held framed photos of my mom and me, a notebook of journal entries I started writing each night, and a tiny ceramic owl that Aunt Rachel said symbolized inner wisdom. And in the middle of it all was a new chapter one never saw coming: mentorship. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I met with a group of girls through Lila's nonprofit. Some came from foster care, others from broken families, others who just needed someone to see them. Really see them. I didn't lecture. I listened. And slowly, they opened up. One girl, Mariah, reminded me of myself. Quiet, watchful, wounded. When she finally told me, "I wish I had a mom like yours," I smiled and handed her a bracelet with a charm that read, "Still rising." You don't need to have everything to become something, I told her. You just need to start where you are. At Aunt Rachel's birthday party in early spring, I brought a homemade strawberry cake, just like the one Mom used to make. As I stood in her tiny backyard surrounded by friends, neighbors, and laughter, I realized something deep in my bones. This was family. Not the people who shared your blood, but the ones who chose you, who held space for you, who cheered you on when you didn't even believe in yourself yet. That night, my dad showed up. Uninvited, but not unwelcome. He stood at the fence with a small potted plant in his hands, lavender. My favorite. "May I?" he asked. I nodded slowly. We sat on the steps, not saying much at first. Then he spoke. "I started therapy. I know it doesn't change what happened, but I'm trying. Claire and I, oh well, we're separated. Maybe permanently." I didn't ask for details. It wasn't about her anymore. He looked at me like he was still learning who I'd become. "You didn't just stand up for yourself. You transformed." I didn't know how to respond. So I just said, "It took pain, but I'm proud of who I'm becoming." He placed the lavender pot on the step beside me. "This was from your mom's old garden. I kept a piece of it." I looked down, touched the soft purple blooms. A full circle moment. Later that night, I walked back into my apartment, lit my mom's favorite candle, and curled up with a blanket. My phone buzzed. A message from Mariah. "Thank you for believing in me. I think I believe in me now too." Tears welled in my eyes, but this time, they were full of warmth. That was my true revenge. Not anger, not control, but becoming whole, reclaiming my voice, and helping others find theirs. Underscore 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 underscore. And as the sun rose the next morning, casting golden light through my kitchen window, I brewed tea and stood there quietly, barefoot, grounded, alive. I thought of my mom, of her laugh, of how she used to say, "One day, All of this will make sense. Just keep moving forward, even when it hurts. It finally made sense. And I was finally free.